Welcome to the Bat Lessons Book Club. I'm Alex.
And I'm Brian.
And we're talking about Absolute Batman issue number 6. This one, I believe, is actually the end of the zoo this time.
I think you're right. You called it.
Yeah.
So Alex and I were together. We recorded another episode about Ace the Batman, or Batman's dog or whatever.
Bat-Hound. Yep.
Bat-Hound, right. And while we were together, you made a comment about how you thought that the one issue that had a different artist was kind of a filler episode.
The year one. Yeah.
To give time.
The thing is that, like, people, there's a stigma with fill-in issues, right? People don't want to, like, denigrate the artist. They don't want to talk down to the story in it. They don't want to, like, and so to call it a fill-in is sort of like a black mark. And so I think they very intentionally, at a certain point, like issue 1 said 1 of 5, and then at some point they dropped the of 5. Now this is the zoo number 6, but like very clearly there's a story in the middle of it that doesn't go with everything else. It's probably fill in. For what it's worth, I think it's a great issue and it stands on its own. And
I agree.
You know, but that's probably the reason they kind of sort of danced around it a little bit. But any spoiler-free thoughts before we dive right on in?
Yeah, so when we did issue 5,
we
were looking for spoiler-free thoughts, which I think mine was like not a lot of resolution.
Yeah.
And this one, some resolution.
Yes, this is actually the end of the arc for sure. Mm-hmm. So there are 3 storylines that happen in this issue, or 3 timelines that happen in this issue. We've got one, which is like present day Bruce, present day Batman, what's happening with him. We've got present day Martha and Gordon, what's happening with them. And then we've got Bruce in the past with his mom, Martha, as well. And so we sort of jump back and forth between them throughout. The first one we get is Bruce in the present day. They reestablish where we left off, which is Black Mask has left drops all over the city with weapons and masks to try to empower anyone who wants to be a party animal and make money doing crimes.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the Purge, right?
It is the Purge.
Set Gotham on fire, absolute chaos.
Yes.
Let people go crazy. And there's some really interesting elements to how they do it, which we'll talk about in a minute. But finding the right ways to motivate people to go out and cause mayhem.
Right. It seems like very well engineered. We've got Waylon Croc coming to this realization. He's watching television. He's in his gym. Who walks in but Bruce? And he's not trying to hide it. He's like, I'm Batman and I need your help.
Yeah, it is. So there is like a kind of a beat to this that I think is kind of interesting. So he's watching the TV and he's like, no, this is not good. And then he hears a crash and he's like, I'm Waylon the Croc.
Yeah. You're
not messing with my gym. And then it's Bruce and he just like, he's like, I'm Batman, help me. Which my immediate thought was like, ruh-roh, the Croc's gonna die. Because in Batman, anytime someone knows his name, if he's not on the team, he dies. So
I think that rules out the window for reasons we'll talk about in just a second.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts about it too, especially when you get to the end.
Yeah, well, we smash cut to Absolute Batman the Zoo Part 6, and it's all the friends together. And this made me think back to your call out from issue 2, where you said all of the friends that you could call them the zoo. And I was like, oh my gosh, did Brian call it? And I thought for sure later in the issue that they were going to be a group. They're not, I don't think. Again, by the end of the issue, it was like, maybe not them as the zoo, but certainly of the thematic, like, idea.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more to say once we get to the end. But like, I think that your initial thought about this is that like the zoo is like the historic event in the zoo where Thomas Wayne gets killed. Like that is what Batman's or Bruce Wayne's like whole motivation spins off of, and this issue like kind of solidifies that
100%. So we go to the flashback, right? And it starts out they're at a sleepover. So Bruce is with all the friends from the picture. You know, we've got Croc, Oswald. We've got
Riddler.
Yeah, Riddler, Two-Face. Their names.
Harvey.
Yes.
Edward.
And Selina. A dude walks in with a gun and pulls it, and Martha's like, oh hell no, you don't. You know, and jumps out and saves them. And instantly it's a nightmare. So
it's just a nightmare.
Yes. And they didn't even try to hide it. I read it in print this time, and it's like it's not a cliffhanger. Like, it's not a page turn. You see him waking up is directly next to it. And so
Yeah.
they're not really trying to trick you here, I don't think. They're just conveying Bruce is having this awful nightmare where his mom dies.
Yeah. I mean, it starts out like kind of a sweet story. Like, oh, they're going to have this nice sleepover, right? And the mom says like, well, I guess it's time for lights. And then the dude with the gun goes out. And she's what? And then blam. And Bruce is upset. Yeah. And he comes out to his mom and wants to cuddle a little bit and the post-nightmare cuddles.
Yeah. Then we jump to the present day, Martha and Gordon, and they're sort of filling out what we have already, like they left off the last issue basically outlining this for you, but they're just giving us the detail. Like, okay, how does this purge thing work? Right. She tries on one of the masks and sees the UI. I don't know if you want to talk about it. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. It's a heads up display that identifies people, and there's like prices on them, and it says start earning. So I'm kind of curious, like, do you have to like stick with the mask, or like how do they actually do the calculation stuff? But like we'll just kind of hand wave that aside.
I'm assuming it has to. You have to have the mask, right? That's how there's going to be some sort of like crypto deposit.
That's kind of what I was thinking,
right.
But also like, what if you lose the mask and you like you do robberies and stuff anyway? Like,
what if you drop someone off in an Uber and you lose your phone?
You get fired.
Well, yeah, but I think like the start earning, the call to action. This to me, like being someone who works in software, I was like, oh, this is a little too close to home. You know?
Oh yeah.
It reminds me a lot of the sort of like gig economy stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just like general, you can see the prices there: robbery, arson, assault, murder. And the total crimes at the bottom, it's like sums up your value. And then it also can identify specific people. So there is a different shot where it just sees like a person. It says like unknown,
$10,000, yeah.
$10,000, whatever. And then I think that's just for maybe assault though, which on this is different. So I don't know the numbers, but then it identifies like Gordon.
Yes.
And he's got a million dollar hit.
Yeah. Gordon and Martha both have $1 million apiece.
Yeah. Cause he's the mayor and she's the deputy mayor.
That's right. Yeah. Super fascinating. To me, the call to action, the start earning is like that hit close to home. That's like dystopian. That's like, oh, that's a little too real. And then in the lower right-hand corner, it's like total crimes committed. I was like, oh, that's a little too silly. Like it's the same panel.
Yeah.
And then Brian, I'm super interested. We cut to another present time scene. Do you understand what's happening here?
I believe so. This is Alfred's daughter.
Yeah, Julia. This is Alfred's daughter. This is the sort of thing. I'm so glad we're doing this because this requires a close reading, and it probably requires a little bit of prior Batman knowledge. Like this is the sort of thing where when I was reading comics month to month, I was pulling like 5 to 10 issues a week, right? And when I came back around to something after a month, like I kind of sort of had the gist, right? And a lot of times I was reading a character or a storyline or a mythos for the first time. And so I wouldn't have known, okay, Scott Snyder has done a story before with Alfred's daughter, Julia, right? And I wouldn't remember there was the one sheet, one page where we see him spying on her on the playground, because I wouldn't have thought it was significant because I don't know who Julia is, right? And so this would have made sense, like contextually, of like, oh, like mayhem's happening in the city, like bad things are happening to people, civilians are getting disappeared, right? But because I'm trying to do a close reading, I've done the research. I've read some Batman mythos before. I've read this author before because we're talking about it to week. I'm like, like I know it's like we're making good on a thread, right? They've given us a tiny little breadcrumb, and now they're finally following up on it, right?
Yeah.
She's on the subway. She's talking to someone on the phone, a significant other. She calls her Ree. I don't think we've met that person yet. And is basically like, I'm going to be fine. Don't worry about me. I'm going to get home okay. And then party animals show up and she's like, oh crap. And someone grabs her. And at first we're supposed to think this is a party animal, but the silhouette, you'd be forgiven to think it's a party animal, but I'm like 99.999% sure, especially because of what happens later. This is Alfred because he's wearing the motorcycle helmet.
Right. Oh, you think he's wearing the helmet?
Yes.
I just think it's his face. Like it's just his head's down under his arm.
It might be, yeah. Or that could be his hair sticking out the back.
Yeah, I was thinking it was his hair. And I think they chose this pose because they could, if they showed his beard, you would know.
Right. That's fair. It's definitely meant to be ambiguous.
Yeah. And then if I recall correctly, in issue 1, when we first meet Alfred, he talks about like coming to Gotham and wondering what's up with his daughter, and he hasn't seen her in a long time. And so
he does.
This
They've
also
given breadcrumbs.
Yeah. And another thing from the earlier on this page is there's a emergency alert notification that goes on the phone that says like stay inside, shelter in place.
Right, they're locking people down.
Yeah, stay at home order.
We cut to now. Bruce or Batman is with Oswald in a helicopter, and he's pissed.
So basically, Bruce has told all of his friends who he is, and he makes it. So Oswald makes a couple of really funny comments. He says he's mad. He says, "I want to punch you." He says Waylon wants to punch you. Harvey wants to arrest you. Eddie says he guessed it weeks ago. The jackass. And who knows what Selena will? Well, actually, she'll probably think it's hot. I thought all of those beats are really funny to me.
Yeah. Well, and earlier in the issue, they had made the joke that like Bruce and Selena should share a sleeping bag, which is funny because it's actually Bruce's dream where that's said. So I don't know if they'd remember about that in real life that way or not. But like, definitely you get the vibe that there's, they like each other, or at least, there's tension there.
Yeah.
And so, we get the vibe that he's calling in all the favors, right? He's gone from one friend to the next. They all know. And he's jumping out of this helicopter that Oswald has.
So Batman is saying Eddie's Riddler, the AI bot thing that they talked to in the past. He said they're too big to take out, but their servers can be knocked out. And Batman says, I bet there's a server on this boat. And he jumps out. And Eddie's like, I can't stick around to save you. And Batman's like, I'm not asking you to. And then he jumps, does one of those incredible Batman things where he falls a very long way.
Cool splash page for sure.
Yeah. And this part really cracked me up because he's coming down fast. And there's this dude that we saw in a previous issue. He's making these. Yeah, he's just DJing. He's like, waka, waka, waka. And he just kind of looks up like, huh? And just crushes him.
Yeah.
Which I just found really, really funny. Yeah. And then he deals with other people on the boat pretty quickly. Yeah. One of them's a kid. One of them's a woman. And
this is the one that everyone in the community is talking about. This was all over Threads. This is everyone's thumbnail on YouTube. Is him punching a child.
Yeah. It's too good.
She's like, you can't hurt me. I'm a kid. And he's like, watch me.
Right. And then Batman doesn't kill. So he wraps them all up in life preservers.
Yes. Make sure they have jackets.
And chucks them over.
We go back to the nightmare scene, and Martha's kind of going through a photo album with Bruce to try to calm him down. They're talking about Thomas, right, and his life and how hard things were hard for him. And one of the things that she loved so much about him was that he was never afraid. He was always hopeful, and how he was always hopeful about you. And they have this photo from the splash page of all the friends. And Bruce is like, don't you know that this photo was taken at the zoo? This was before the field trip, before the shooting. I don't know how she wouldn't know that if she put the album together. Someone developed the photo or printed it, right? Yeah. So it's a little contrived dialogue. But, we're having these emotional beats talking about, Bruce being a reflection of his father and sort of the hopefulness that she sees in them.
So then in like the present day, so there's kind of this interesting thing where they're bouncing back and forth at this point in the story. So there's like what's happening here in present day, and then there's that flashback, and they go 100%. Back and forth to like make a narrative. So what's happening here is we've got Gordon and Martha who they're about to be shot basically. And these guys have the skulls on. They're like, oh my gosh, they're both worth $1 million. This is crazy. We have to shoot them. And this one guy's like, I can't shoot a woman.
Yeah.
How about we just shoot the dude and we split the cash between each other?
Yeah.
And then Martha takes the opportunity to like basically call them cowards and then say like, you guys are better than this. This is not what we should be doing. Like, didn't you hear what Batman sent over the recording? this is exactly what's being set up for you guys to do this and ruin the city. Yeah. And the city won't get ruined if you don't do all this crap. So please don't, essentially.
Right. You're taking the bait, right? Like you're being Black Mask's pawn right now. Yeah, just sort of like a appeal to their better nature.
Right.
Then we cut to an airplane on the tarmac. We've got Alfred there with Julia, and he's trying to rescue her. He's like, I can't leave you in the city. Shit's going down. I've seen this happen in other places. And she's like, I don't think you understand. I've got a life here. Like, I have people I care about. There's people who care about me. Like, I can't just leave. And the pilot's like, what are we doing, boss? And Alfred says, like, wheels up. Let's go. So he's like overriding his daughter.
So there's an interesting beat here as well, because Julia is saying, like, all I've ever wanted to do is go on trips with you. And the last thing I want right now is to go on this trip right now. I want to stay here. And if we fly away, I have no father.
Right. You never showed up for me when I needed you, and now you're showing up in a way I don't want. Yeah.
Right. And the guy's like, what's the call? And Alfred, like, big sigh, like, wheels up, like, I'm acknowledging that I'm losing my daughter right now, but I'd rather have a daughter who hates me than a daughter who dies in this purge thing.
Yeah. Back on the boat, Batman has moved on from the low-level goons, and he's fighting Sionis. He's fighting Black Mask himself.
Yes.
I loved that you chose out this art. You sent me this art to include. Yes. Because I chose it too. It took me a second to realize what was going on. I guess on his yacht, he's got a bowling alley.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It does kind of like smack of like There Would Be Blood, if you've seen that, where Daniel Day-Lewis beats up Paul Dano. Yeah. With like bowling pins.
Yes.
It's kind of the same thing. And so Batman, this isn't in the screenshot here, but Batman runs up and pushes him through a wall.
Yeah,
just like tackles him
through a wall with him.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then is like, here we go. And he picks up bowling balls and is just punching him with these bowling balls.
He's dual wielding them.
Yeah. He's like, who needs fists? And it's just like wiping him out.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because his head is kind of a bowling ball. So it's like definitely like a visual comedy there for sure. So I have always hesitated to show like whole pages, but here towards the end, there's going to be several where we're just jumping back and forth between multiple stories like we were talking about. And eventually they're going to be jumping between all three storylines on one page. And it's incredible. I think like it's just very, very, very well done. So apologies for including all the art, but I can't not. This fight that Black Mask and Batman are having culminates in Black Mask taking, I don't know what you call that string. Like a
garrote.
Yeah. And wraps it around Batman's neck and pulls it tight. And he's like choking him out.
And he's talking about in the previous, and maybe 2 issues ago, when he's saying like, he's talking about pigs and how when you kill pigs, he's like, the ones that give in, they have this moment of bliss, right? Like as they die. Yep. And he's saying like, what I said, I lied. I loved it when they fought. They fought right up to the end, which is a callback to when he killed that boxer guy, that other dude.
Yeah. He was like, shut him out.
And he loves killing people. He loves the struggle. And that's what's going on here is he thinks he's going to kill him. And then Batman does this stellar thing where he pulls his bat ears down and he jams his face into him. It's really crazy. He's like, did it sound like this? Wham!
And he's screaming, ah! I thought for sure he was dead. Because if this was real, there's no way he's not. I was like, oh, I guess this Batman does kill. But in the
that's what I thought too.
Yeah, in the very next panel, Sionis he's monologuing still. He's talking at Batman. He's talking at Bruce. And he's like, I don't give a shit. He like gives him a life jacket and chucks him in the water and walks away. Yeah, I don't have time for this.
Yeah. Well, and it's also kind of funny because he's like, Sionis is saying, you lunatic, you will lose everything right before he gets thrown over. And he's like, he's screaming at him like a lunatic.
Sure.
Calling him a lunatic, getting thrown over. Yeah. But what happens next on this page is pretty interesting because it's a crescendo of tension, right? So Batman has essentially like defeated like the bad guy that we've been following, Black Mask. But there's all of this tension with like, is Gordon about to get killed? Is Martha about to be killed? And the story arc that we followed for 6 issues now is how Thomas died, but Martha's still alive, and that's a different thing. So I'm reading this part and I'm wondering, like, are we going to see Batman lose his mom too and be like a greater motivation to go on into the next set of issues?
Yeah.
And she even says at the very end, he says, I'm afraid. He says, Mom, I keep having these nightmares where you die. And she says, I will die one day, Bruce. The dude says at this bottom where he's got the gun, he's got the cat mask, he says, I'm sorry, Mrs. Wayne, I am. And then he cocks his gun. And then the boat blows up. And then you turn the page.
Yeah.
And you find out that everything's okay.
It's fascinating. I did not read it this way. Because I was living in this sort of comedic beat where Sionis is defeated. So to me, in that moment, the tension's cut a little bit, right? And he's throwing him into the water and walking away from him like, I don't have time for you. But if you step back and read this the way you're talking about, where it's much more straight up, what he says is like, everyone you love is going to die. I'm going to take everything from you. And you're right. The narration is in the past, right? Where she's saying, I am going to die someday. Because he's saying, yeah, I'm worried about it. And they're tying that together of like, this is potentially a moment where we could lose Martha. And it maybe in this universe, if you're thinking about it, like, is this like the Batman we know? Maybe he loses both of his parents. That is a really interesting thread that I totally missed on this reading. I'm glad you pointed that out. Cause yeah, it's like on these sort of things where it's so dense, man. There's so many themes and so much poetry in this. If you're not doing a careful reading, you're not going to catch everything. And different people can take away different things from it. And that's really cool.
Yeah, and these I've noticed with these absolute issues, is you kind of have to read them like 2 or 3 times to catch all the stuff that's going on.
Yes.
And then just like talking with you has been really helpful because you catch different things than I do, and then you help remind what happened in previous issues to bring it back together. Like we had that one person who commented about the medal.
Oh yes, it was the science fair. We had forgotten.
We both missed it, right?
Yeah.
And so, they're very dense. There's a lot of information in these. Yeah,
I'm so glad we're doing the book club because these deserve a careful reading. And I'm not sure most comic books do. So it definitely gives me a greater appreciation for the work and for the author, for sure. Like,
yes,
Scott Snyder's knocking it out of the park on this.
Yeah, totally agree.
And then we get these servers that you were talking about.
Yeah, so the servers are what's making all the skull, the HUD stuff work.
Yeah.
And so Martha's here still antagonizing these guys and telling them not to do this stuff, but like as you can see, like not holding back. And Batman blows up the boat and it's just right at the perfect time because everything drops to zeros.
Yes. While they're talking about it, we're getting, this is the moment where we're getting all 3 storylines, right? We're getting, in the past, she's saying about the photo, hey, like I could take this out of the book if you want, right? Like if you don't want this photo in there, if it's painful for you, we can, and Bruce is like, no, you got to keep it in there. And she has this, like these wonderful things to say about her son. She says, you have every right to say, to hell with it all. You could live your life angry and afraid, but that's not who you are. The way you get back out there with your friends, what you said to Jim at the funeral, because if you remember, he talks about he wants the zoo to be a symbol, right? Because the other things you can do when bad things happen is use the pain to be even more determined, more hopeful. You wear the pain like a damn cape. Yeah. So it's sort of like Martha speaking this fundamental truth that he doesn't want to hide from his past. Right. And she wouldn't blame him if he did, but that's what makes him special, right?
Yeah.
And that dialogue's happening in all of these panels, whether we're in the past or we're in the future, that's overriding everything that's happening. As the servers explode, the values for everyone drops to 0. And the guys with the masks are like, what? There's no money in this anymore? What's going on?
Yeah, no more motivation.
Yes. While this is happening, Batman's like sinking down into the water. So we're seeing him.
Oh, he's sinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened here
is
is
not what I saw at all.
The boat exploded with him on it. He had like a grenade.
Yeah, well, I thought he went.
No.
And this is him like off in the distance, floating, like flying, like a cannonball.
No, he's sinking down into the water.
Okay.
Martha, what's really awesome is as these guys are giving up and they're walking away and they're like, it's not worth it anymore. Martha like socks one of them in the face. Not going to let him have it. And then Martha has like a very close hug. A very interesting hug.
Yeah.
with Gordon.
What we called many issues ago.
Yes, we did. It isn't necessarily, they may never actually do like a romance plot with them, but they're definitely leaving that open. It's like they're a little bit more than coworkers for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught what was happening. So he's sinking down into the water. I actually don't have the art. I feel bad, but if you go back and you look at it, I'll cut it into the episode. What's actually coming up from above?
Oh, is it? No, it's not a submarine. It's the truck.
It's the truck, but it's in the water like a submarine.
Yeah.
It's caught him from inside the water. It's coming up while Batman's coming down, and he surfaces it, and Alfred climbs out like it's a submarine, a hatch out the top.
Yeah.
We get the only callback to the ad for the bat exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
Bats live long lives, and finally we get the satisfying role reversal, because in a previous issue, Bruce is fixing himself up while Alfred's there, kind of judging him. This time, Alfred's the one fixing up Bruce, like in the proper universe. This is what we expect.
Yep.
And the speech, the dialogue he has there is very revealing.
If I'm sticking around, so are you.
Right. Which suggests the scene earlier with Julia on the tarmac is a head fake. He changes his mind.
Yeah.
And they stay in the city, and he respects her wishes, which feels good, right? Like they definitely want you to think like, oh, I'm disappointed in Alfred. I expected better from Alfred. And then to come around at the end of the issue, and he made the right choice. Very poetic. I think this was an excellent way to end the issue. Definitely felt like a crescendo of all of the threads, thematically that we've been pulling for this whole arc.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I also really liked the stuff that you read about like being hopeful and like there's a terrible thing at the zoo and you could throw it all away and say to hell with it, but instead you're going to be a symbol, right? Like it's putting those. She didn't say be a symbol, but she talked about the thing you said to Gordon, which is he wants it to be a symbol.
Yeah,
and he's also
he's
picked
like a cape.
And there's like the bat bridge thing,
yes,
and how he wants it to be a symbol of hope falling from the sky, right? Like it's all coming together. Yeah. And then she says, "You wear it like a cape," which is like he wears a cape, like nailed it. And so it's there's very satisfying to read. It's like stories have poetry?
Yeah, for sure.
And it was a really good read.
Yeah. It's definitely the zoo, right? This is the emblem. We understand now why they call it the zoo. It's what he carries with him. It is his motivation. It could be a source of profound pain and sadness, but he uses it as a motivation, as an engine, which is not so different than Thomas and Martha in the alley in the proper sort of traditional Batman origin, but told in a much more detailed and sort of loving way. So.
And I will say, way better origin setup than a bat flying through a window when you're reading about crime.
Sure.
Way better.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, this does, and this is not a novel observation, right? Like when they very first announced this, people are saying, "Oh, this is DC's Ultimate Universe," right? Like Ultimate Spider-Man. This is very much the same. If you ever go and read the first trade of Ultimate Spider-Man, they take the first 10 pages of Spider-Man and they turn it into 6 issues, right? They've done that here, where it's like, okay, Batman has loss and he turns it into fuel in his fight against crime, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, what if we sit with that? What if we feel that? What if we understand on a deep level, what causes someone to want to do that? And we take our time with it. And they've done the exact same thing. So, A+, big fan.
Yeah. Now, this is like Epilogue. Oh, it even says Epilogue.
Yeah. You want to talk about it?
This is crazy. I don't know what really we're looking at. There's this butler dude on the side who's saying like, "I'm sorry, sir, there's been a hiccup at Gotham." And the guy, this mutant thing says, "I am aware. It's time."
Yes.
But like in the first shot, it's like, I don't know, fungus has taken over this really crazy thing with the veins and stuff. And then it like zooms in. It's like there's a child.
Yeah.
And so then here's where my head goes.
Yes.
This whole purge concept reminds me a ton of like Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows.
Yeah.
Right. And this looks like an old person who's transferring their consciousness into a baby. And I'm wondering if this is Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, maybe.
League of Shadows.
I had wondered, that makes more sense than what I was thinking. Given that his skin is kind of white, I had wondered if this was Joker, which we've alluded to before, that he's kind of like the shadowy rich person pulling strings in the background. But Ra's al Ghul would make a lot of sense. It's interesting you describe them as veins. I think they're all bodies. I think we see the one that's breathing in the front.
Multiple bodies. I see it now. The faces.
There's other faces, and then there's one hanging off the back, and you see its rib cage and its neck like hanging backwards. So yeah, there's some sort of like symbiote parasite relationship going on. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, living off the blood of babies or something, like
who knows. Gross.
And then, do you want the last line?
I don't have it in front of me. Something about Bane.
Get Bane. Which also it connects to League of Shadows, the connection to Bane, which you know the comics, so this might not be like a thing, but Dark Knight Rises.
Sure.
Bane was connected with all of that, and what's the daughter's name?
Oh, Talia al Ghul.
Talia.
I don't believe that's the case in the comics. I did read Nightfall, Night's Quest, Night's End, and I don't remember that being a thing.
So before we wrap up, I also want to talk about the friends. And what is about to happen? I'm really curious because we know that these are all characters that become villains in the traditional Batman universe, right?
Yes.
But in this universe, they're like childhood friends. They play poker. We talked about how Batman seems to be better because he knows them and he can bounce his ideas off of them without like saying he's Batman. And stuff like that. And this issue, he actually like tells them who he is and asking for like direct help.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious if this is like setting up like a Bat family. Yeah. Not that they will be Bat uniformed characters or whatever, but that they are like part of his like posse of crime fighters, or not, because they also kind of seem like criminals sometimes. So it's really interesting.
I'm interested to see where it goes as well. I think they probably are setting up a Bat family, even if it's temporary, right? Like I could very easily see there being a Bat family of sorts that exists where they're helping him for an arc or two, and that falls apart, and then they start turning against him, and there's drama because of that. We'll see, but I will say in comics, much more so than in the movies. We get some of this in the cartoons, right? The Bat family is something that that people are really into, right? Like whether it's James Tynion IV's Detective Comics run, where we have like Clayfaces on the team, Batwoman's kind of leading it up. We have Spoiler, who was a love interest for Tim Drake Robin, who's on the team. Or you have like the sort of like 90s version of Batman that everyone knows, where Barbara is no longer Batgirl, but she's Oracle, right? And Tim Drake's out there helping out, or people are really into the idea of after Jason Todd comes back, he's the Red Hood. Spoilers, and he's kind of on the Bat family as well. I think that's so of the comics. And while I'm trying to remember, I don't know. I don't think Scott Snyder did a bunch with the traditional Bat family. Like in his first arc, I know he acknowledged all the Robins. They they go out to eat at like a Batman themed restaurant. It's really bizarre, but all the Robins are there. But I do know that he had several characters that he introduced that were sort of part of the family. He had one called the Signal, and then I can't remember her name. There was a girl as well that ended up being a Robin of sorts. So I think when you have sort of these long arcs, it gives more. There are more people who know the secret. It gives more personalities, more storytelling opportunities, more drama. More sort of like interpersonal relationship that is kind of necessary, I think, for the comic story telling medium. So I think like the chemistry and the character development is part of what makes these stories really interesting beyond just like the crimes and the mysteries and stuff like that. I'm also kind of curious if they'll have like these. They all know he's Batman, and if they turn, they're going to have these kind of weird dynamics of like, are they going to reveal who
who I am.
They could get him
or
in trouble
not.
with the law. They could add him with like the general populace and try to like sway public opinion. It's an interesting angle for sure.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts?
Great 6-issue arc. I really enjoyed it a ton. Lots of awesome art.
Yeah.
And it's a great setup for a new universe. I'm just gonna keep reading it. Even if we'd stop the book club, I'm probably gonna keep trying to read it because it is really interesting to get like a brand new take on everything.
I'm gonna read it for sure. Leave your comments down below what your thoughts are if you're gonna keep reading and whether you think we should keep doing the book club or do something else with the book club. Interested in your thoughts of what you guys want to see. Hey, Bat Fam. Hope you like the show. If you do, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Stickers. We got stickers. It's a great way to support the show. Just $5. Link in the description and on batlessons.com. To keep the Batman history train going, watch this video next.